Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to this session. We at GMAT Biz always want to bring you amazing success stories of students who have done not just the ordinary but the extraordinary, gone beyond the norms, actually broken the norms, and they give the ray of hope to a lot of people who feel that okay, this is possibly not doable. So we always try to bring a lot of stories to people, and today is another such day. In fact, one of the most brightest student, I would say, who has not just converted the best B school in like one of the best B schools in the world, INSEAD, and also gotten an amazing scholarship from INSEAD. So without any further ado, let me invite Barkavi to the stream. So Barkavi, like we've done an interview with you earlier as well, so I know we are going to discuss this for the second time. But how does it feel now? Like you are almost very close. Your college is starting from August, right? Like so you're gonna be traveling soon. You would have already formed friends in INSEAD. So how does it feel now, like for the dream to come true and all?
It feels exciting. It feels exciting and a little bit scary because this has been my dream always to be to join such a premier school and basically study in a place that empowers you to be a leader that gives back. So I think and that's something that's been reflective or in all my conversations with people who are also preparing to go. So very excited, but of course, INSEAD is also going to be very intense. So, gearing up for that. And fingers crossed, yeah.
No, definitely. Like INSEAD is known for creating leaders. It's known for creating entrepreneurs who have actually changed the world. So definitely, and I know you personally because we worked on the application together, and you have always stood for the broader impact. You've always looked at small things, might be tiny things, but they always end up creating a lasting impact, and that's really good to go. So let's start with your introduction for the people who are here with me. And just for your information, guys, you can ask questions. Okay, so this is an interview for you guys. I'm the moderator to ask some relevant questions to Barkavi, but obviously you can always have the stage, ask the questions, and even when you're watching this video after this live stream, and if you have any questions, feel free to shoot it to us. We have worked with Barkavi very closely. Either we can answer it for you, or if needed, we will ask Barkavi to pitch in as well. But feel free to ask any questions during this live stream. I'm more than happy to take those up. So let's start with the introduction, Barkavi. Yeah.
Of course. So, hello everyone. I am Barkavi. I am from the down south Chennai, India, and I have around 5 years of work experience. I started off my career in management consulting with Boston Consulting Group, and then switched gears to join my family business just around COVID. And my family business operates in a couple of verticals. So that's hospitality and industrials primarily. So my experience has been on both sides of the spectrum, on the corporate side as well, and also on the other side where we're trying to make the most with the little resources that we have. So yeah, 5 years there, and now headed to INSEAD. And yeah, hopefully I look forward to coming back to my business and you know consolidating it and taking it further.
So, but we'll start with a different question this time around. So many people have this a few myths around applications. So some people think that okay, when you're coming from a family business background, you're not perceived in a positive sense by the B schools. Is that true according to you? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't think so, because it's just about how you're presenting your case, right? And I agree. That's also the main reason I reached out to GMAT Wiz, and we work together because in family business scenarios, mostly there are not set structures, set goals for you. We have projects, we have like okay a vision that we want to achieve, but there is no set pathway. So often I am usually wearing multiple hats. Someday I'm sitting with my HR looking at interviews, and someday I'm sitting with my finance working on the budgeting. So how do I show progress? How do I show impact? And how so that's the biggest question. Like, it's not that the B schools are against family businesses. It's just that they would like to see the impact you've done, the things that you've achieved. And that's tricky if you don't all it's tricky to do it, I feel, from family businesses, because like I said, no set structure. right? So when we worked
Very important.
together, and when I was actually explaining, when we sat and we decided on what have been the pivotal points through my career, and then I was just talking from experience, and you had called out that, hey, this is what you've been doing, this is this is an actual step, like this is not many people do it, so we really need to highlight it. And yeah, so it doesn't hit you because in the family business background, right? Yeah.
So that's true. That's true. What happens is that sometimes business B schools think that, okay, as you said, that there is a lack of structure, and family businesses are very much people-driven businesses. So that's something also we highlighted in our applications as
Yeah.
well. These are people-driven businesses, so sometimes the processes are not set in place. But what you need to also understand is that, like, you have to put the story right, as Barkavi said, that you have to show the achievement, show your thought process behind things. So it's not necessarily that if you're from family business, it will be perceived in the wrong sense. You have to ensure that you tell them the right stories, you tell them the right, give them the right perspectives as well. And one more thing which is important, and especially Barkavi's case was true, is that she came from a lot of corporate background as well. She worked in BCG for a couple of years, where she worked with international teams as well. So she had that structure in place, and in fact, we did her story in a similar, in a fashion, that she actually brought in those experiences, which was the true case as well. She, when she joined her business, it was COVID going on, and it was probably the worst time to join a hospitality business. And that point of time, she turned around and made sure that the business was profitable. So we had great things to share with respect to how that structured thought process from a corporate can actually transition a family business into a corporate. So that's the thought process which is important. So very rightly said. So let's start from how you went about the INSEAD application. So what were the steps that you followed? Like, how did you start? What was the step one? What is the step two? Like, just run us through that process. So for anyone who is applying to INSEAD, they know that this is how they should get started.
Of course. Essentially, we were trying to first, get to know each other when before the application journey started. So, we spoke about, we had you shared like a matrix with me, and we were like, let's say, I'm sorry. Can you refresh my memory, and what's the exact format that we followed? Uh,
So
I,
we formed a data dashboard where we had the strengths, weaknesses, and all those things.
Exactly.
Basically,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I was just hoping. I didn't want to mess up if there was a specific word for it. So yeah. So we were trying to
yeah.
get to know each other as to, like, what have been the pivotal incidents, and what's my strength, what's my weakness, and it was a lot of reflection, right? The process to actually go and write my essays was much towards the end. First, we needed to understand each other, and also I think it's not just about working as a with a consultant, but also it was an exercise for me to understand myself, to understand what could be highlighted, what how are we going to pair the story together. So we did the essentially the SWOT analysis of sorts, and then we also tried to, and once we picked up pivotal incidents, like we did the incidents, and then we also spoke about what is my persona going to be, right? We established, okay, you have all of this, but what is your pivotal thing? How do you come across to people, and how do you want to come across to the
At comms.
at comms? So essentially that. So we focused on our so I bring a diversity to the plate, and I have experiences across the spectrum, and in my time I give a lot, from the small processes in my business to actually taking time out to give back to the society. It's like end to end. So both these elements we wanted to highlight, and we wanted to look at incidents that complement this and supplement this from the start of my journey, right from my professional
Right
career.
from
How
a school.
have we doing?
In fact, your school
Exactly.
as well. We talked about the
Exactly.
alumni community and all those things.
Exactly. Yeah. And because it was very essential to have this in place before we started the application, because the INSEAD application is one of the most, I think they ask the most questions
Tedious
out
one.
there. Yeah. I easily just questions for myself. I'm sure there are around 14 questions just for a student to answer, and then if you're also working with your recommenders to give them prompts, because it would have been a while
Mhm.
since you worked with them. So
I
again,
was just speaking to a student from Russia today. She's also
yeah,
interested in INSEAD. So I was just
yeah,
telling her that INSEAD has 26 essay prompts if you include the
exactly,
essay prompt for the scholarship essays. So
exactly,
she was like, what are you talking about? Like
exactly.
26 essays I have to write?
Yeah, it was quite the process. So
Yes,
you needed to that 26 essays. You need to be the storyline should be same, right from the start to
exactly.
the end. It all should complement each other. If you're calling out data points in one essay, it should match the data points you're highlighting in your resume and later on in your scholarship and when your conversations, right? So it's all that groundwork was very necessary to frame my storylines for the questions. And yeah, so it was a long process. And also we needed to we spent time on two things where understanding what INSEAD is as a school, like what do they stand for, what kind of thought material have they put outside for you to learn from, what are their affinities on. And also I made it a point to speak to alumni, so
Hmm.
to
Very important.
understand what clubs are there and how my specific experience is going to can be beneficial there. So for instance, like I mentioned earlier, I'm from a family business background, and when I spoke to an alumni, I came to know that there are the family business office inside the INSEAD. You can book appointments with like an expert who's like one of the most renowned economists out there. So you can book a slot with them and speak through, look through your business model, your goals, plans, and then they will help you vet it and plan ahead, right? So this is something which was not even there on the website. And probably it was not on the website, and this is something I got through from the alumni, and I mentioned it in my
Essays.
conversations and essays with the essays and the conversations with the adcom. And they were very impressed that this, like, I had thought through what I wanted, and which is very essential, right? You're applying to so many schools. Why are you applying to a specific school? Because, and it's a huge investment. What's your return going to be? So
And that
yeah.
focus is important. That focus on a particular school is important. And just to tell you
Hmm.
guys, we worked with Barkavi on just two schools, in CR and NUS. She converted both, by the way. But like that's what focus does to you. There are people I've seen who apply to like 15 colleges. Again, I understand there is a rationale behind doing that as well. But if you're applying to 15 colleges, you need to be true to all those 15 colleges. You cannot just try to fill an application, just replace the name of NCR with NUS and then put the same story out there. It doesn't work that way. So just coming back, just highlighting some key points. So a lot of people downplay these factors, Balcony, which you talked about. One, getting their stories right, because especially when you come with such different experiences, like you have family business experience, you have consulting experience, you come from a different background, you're not an engineer, you're from BCom background, you have a CMA as well, you have so many different things in your profile. What ends up happening is that people are not able to make a consistent storyline. They are not able to show a consistent persona. They show too many different things, then the outcomes don't remember you. They also feel confused about what I read about the student. The student has done like 10 different things. So there's that consistency which is needed. And Balkari did a very solid thing that she spent a lot of time on this. I think we spent about 15-20 days on just perfecting the entire persona and the storyline. And in fact, the essays of INSEAD took us less time than that. So that's what you need to understand. Most people make a mistake of directly jumping into the essays. The second thing which she said was that research on the B schools, talking to alumni, all this is important. And just one more thing, like since we are in July right now and September is gonna be round one, September October is gonna be round one. It is very important for you guys who are preparing for GMAT right now to start doing these two things: the brainstorming, the pre-work basically on your essays, and the research on the B schools right away. Start on it right away. Spend 20% of your time on this and 80% of your time on GMAT. That's something which is very, very important. And GMAT score is not the only thing these schools look at. They look at individuals. So score is a part of your application. And trust me, like Bakavi sitting in front of us, by no means 700 is a low score. Like I remember when we were having our first interview with Bakavi, she was telling us, is 700 a low score? You were saying that, okay, I've scored a 700. It's a tough job to do it, and that's how it is. Most people do not realize that actually getting to a 700 is not an easy task, and that's why very few people end up scoring a 700. Like most of you think, okay, you know what? If I don't score a 750, 760, I don't get into a B school. That's not true. That's not true. The B schools are looking at you as an individual. You need to have a respectable score, definitely, and 700 plus is definitely a very respectable score. You need to have a respectable score as an Indian candidate. That's something which is what you have to deal with. But they are looking at the stories. So please make sure that from now onwards itself, if you are looking at round one, especially, you start working on these two factors as what we talked about. Okay, so
I
let's
need
move
to,
on to the next thing. Like,
yeah,
sorry,
I mean, I just wanted to, when you were speaking about this, I needed to thank you, Piyush, because the thing is, when I started out, right, I was confused when, is 700 a good enough score? Should I invest another? It's already going to be round, the rounds are here. Should I invest more time in GMAT, or do I invest time on myself figuring out the application? Because, it's a 1 year process, right, to from the time you do your applications to this. And I was worried about this. And while I was also talking to other admission consultants, not many people were ready to take that risk with me, right? They were like, yeah, you have a good profile, but it would be easier if you had like a 720, right? You would be fit in right with the this thing. And I should thank you that you took that risk with, and you were very honest. Like, this is because I have a lot of entrepreneurial experience, and I also come from and consult. INSEAD is a huge feeder to consulting companies, and I have that background in my resume. It's a good profile to take risk, but not everyone was ready to. And we were very specific as to like which schools can we apply to. Like, the we were even considering applying to Darden. We were also considering applying to ESID. All good schools, really. All with a very high GMAT average as well. But I think what I want to call out to the viewers here is, see, think about your fit to the program that is there in the school, and see how do you match. I mean, let's say you're looking at Wharton, right? It's a very it's this is for investment banking, this is for the financial experts, so they should be very good at number crunching and quant, right? So for that, you, and as an Indian who's supposed to be very good at math, you need to have a much higher score,
higher
right?
GMAT, right, right.
Exactly. So a much higher GMAT. But so it depends on how your experience plays, right? Even there,
Exactly.
if like you already come from an investment banking background, and because of your career you were not able to focus on GMAT, and you were around a 700 or a 710, I think you can still apply. It depends on how your background and your score complements to what the school stands for, is what I wanted to say. So spend time on researching the schools and what.
Exactly. That's very important. The school profile fit, the school student fit is very critical, guys. And please don't underplay on that trick. That's very, very important. So make sure you do this. And like as Barkavi said, identify which schools should you focus on and do your 100% research. Like if the example that she took about the family office, like family business office, that's an amazing example. There was no mention on the website, but these insights only alumni can tell you or current students can tell you. So reach out to them, research, reach out, network. In fact, we did another interview recently, with us, another student of ours, Kanika. She had a 680 on the GMAT, and it was round three for ISB. Most of the consultants told her that don't take a risk in round three with 680. You should apply in round one next year or improve your GMAT score. But after reading her profile, we saw that she had all the right elements. She was ticking all the right boxes that ISB is looking at, and we said that let's go ahead with the application, and she was able to make it through to R3 ISB
Amazing.
this year itself. She didn't have to waste one more year of her time.
Exactly. It's the trade-off, right? GMAT is one
Yes.
element to your profile. It's how fast are you going to get into the business school also, right?
Yes,
So
yes, yes. And GMAT ends it there. Like it doesn't. I know in GMAT they present this data that consulting companies look at your GMAT score for recruitment and all. But we all know like why this data is presented, right? At the end of the day, GMAT is also a business. They don't want to lose their business to GRE. So those things also happen. So it's just a part of it. So great, great. So let's talk about the scholarship thing, like Barkavi. Like you started with like the brainstorming that helped you in presenting the consistent stories and everything. But what about scholarships? Like, what are the scholarship essays look like in NCR, and what do you think is the most critical thing for getting a scholarship in NCR, a school like NCR?
I think, first of all, many people, I feel like, take scholarship essays very lightly. If you do not, if you feel like you come from a financially stable background and you cannot justify for a financial scholarship, then people think merit scholarship is a hit or a miss. I don't side with that at all. Each of these call they are. I think you should spend as much and more time on scholarship essays as you would on your normal essays, about around your statement of purpose. And the scholarship essays, another element that I would like you guys to also note is often the same adcoms are not the ones who's going to be reviewing your scholarship essay. So you need, and there is lesser word limit for you to play around with. You had 22 essays to show your storyline in your main essays, but the scholarship committee may not have that amount of word limit for them to understand your story. So you have lesser time frame here, and so highlight your story, uh, assuming that no one they're not going to read the other essays, and call it out. And also, scholarship is someone, probably an alumni, probably a company. It's, they are giving it back to the society by supporting up and coming students. So talk about how you will also be able to give back to the society. I'm not saying you have to also give it back monetarily and in terms of grants, but even like participating in the activities, planning stuff for the upcoming batches. How good a alumni will you be, so that there is like a solid case that you appreciate the fact that they're giving you scholarship and you're ready to give back as well. So that those are elements that I think we focused on together for my scholarship essays, and I think that made all the difference. And I've been in conversations with friends, fellow INSEADers also, who've had a much higher GMAT score, but come from a merit background and were not able to
Haven't received any scholarship.
convert. Yeah, but so I also think it's because they took it lightly, like they didn't think this is going to happen. So I'm just saying, you give it your best, because even if, because merit scholarships are often a smaller amount than financial need based scholarships, so but that amount still offsets quite
A
a
lot
lot
of your costs, yeah.
overall
A lot
tuition.
of your costs.
Yeah.
So just for the record, Barkavi has gotten a scholarship around 18,000 euros, which by no means a small amount. Like many of the people like don't even earn that kind of a money in a year before doing their MBA. So that's a pretty big sum of money in terms of scholarship. And one thing which Barkavi did not add, she focused on need based and merit based, but one thing that probably she missed out was that the essay prompts of INSEAD for scholarships will actually make you feel that this is only meant for people with financial need, because they've very clearly asked that how much money would you need to spend on this and how much money is available with you, what is the gap and how will you fill the gap. So all the four essays were kind of like created in a way that will make you feel that it is only for financial need, it is not meant for
Exactly.
anything
Yeah.
else basically.
Exactly.
That's
You know.
something which is very critical for you to understand. So don't give up. Like merit-based scholarships are still possible. Again, I'll be very honest here. I was confident about Barkavi's case that we will get her into NCR, but when we were talking about scholarship, I personally felt that there is a possibility we might not get it, because Barkavi comes from a decent financial background. So she did not have a technical financial need like to kind of get a scholarship, but we believe that she has always been self-driven and self-sufficient. She always has focused on her own. She has never been a liability on her family or her business ever. In fact, she has always been willing to give back. And that's the angle we played in the scholarship essays, that she wants to be self-dependent always. She doesn't want to kind of put any burden on the business. And whatever scholarship amount INSEAD is giving to her is going to be multiplied multiple times when she becomes a successful businesswoman and contributes back to the society. And you have to also understand that's what INSEAD wants. INSEAD doesn't mind for a school like INSEAD, a few dollars here and there in scholarship will not matter as much. But what they're looking at is the impact that you make on the society. That's what they're looking at. And they want people who can commit to it. And Barkavi had shown that in the past. Just for the record, she started an alumni network in her school. Right, we talk about alumni networks of colleges, right? But she started an alumni network in her school, and there was a very important story which was there, that she ended up having a year gap because of some small decisions that she made around her career, which was like taken with a decent understanding, but she did not understand the entire long-term picture at that point of time. So she felt that having an alumni network will ensure that the school friends or other people, young students who are actually taking career decisions, are getting the right advice from the right people. So those things were some things which were important, were very critical in showing to NCR as a proof of concept that this person, when she talks about giving back to the society, has already done that in the past and is will definitely do that in the future as well. So that's how you need to kind of pitch everything out. So it's very important to take things seriously, as Barkavi said, number one, and number two, make things consistent also. Very, very critical. So that's important. And everyone has a unique story. You cannot go and pick up what I've mentioned just now about Barkavi and just write in your scholarship essay. Your case is different. You have to treat it differently. So that's where like the brainstorming part comes into picture. Okay, so great insights on those things, Barkavi. Let's talk about the interview process. Like, how was the interview process at INSEAD? How difficult was it? What was the environment like? Just run us through the process as well.
Absolutely. Because so there's essentially two interviews, which is quite different from the format of interviews for other B schools. I mean, I'd actually applied to three business schools: ISB, NUS, and INSEAD, and very very different formats. So the INSEAD interview had both the interviews were run by alumni, and both the interviews were an hour long. And the first interview
Okay.
was more of understanding each other, I mean understanding each other as in understanding me and my fit to the school. And but it was also two ways, as to they were also I also had to take time to understand if INSEAD was the right space for me, right? They were looking at how much do I know about school, how much am I how do I see my career and my story fit into INSEAD, and how is it going to step ahead. And there was one more interview called the leadership interview, where they were very specifically, which was more intense, and I honestly felt really bad after the interview, but it was just a stress interview, not like a stress interview, but it was just a little more intense than the other ones, where they specifically focused on my leadership capabilities and the impact that I have done in my career. Both the things that were actually necessitated, that was given to me as part of my job role, and what did I take initiative for beyond. So those two things were essential. And I think just going back to what you spoke about, how in the scholarships INSEAD makes you feel that this is only for need based, like the way the interviews, the story, the essay prompts, the scholarship, everything is structured to show understand if the student is looking at INSEAD as an end goal, or is looking at INSEAD as a springboard for your next step, right? So they keep asking you there's a question in the essay prompt as well about what will you do if you don't get into INSEAD. So what's your
Hmm.
next plan. So they're trying to understand that, okay, my end goal is, let's say, expansion. So
Hmm.
if INSEAD doesn't happen, it may take a longer time for me to go there, but how am I still going to figure it out, right? So
Exactly.
like you mentioned, consistency and some consistency of the story, and being extremely clear of what I want is very essential. So all those information was also asked in my interviews, so to like really understand where I'm going forward, right? So yeah, data dashboard is a step that, please take it, you should take it very seriously.
Definitely, definitely. And as you said, leadership interview is a very intense interview, because again, that all syncs up with the INSEAD philosophy. INSEAD is always looking at creating leaders of the future, right? That's what they're focused on. And that's why you'll find leadership as a very, very important trait, like tested in INSEAD. So if you're applying to INSEAD, you need to understand the nerve of the school. They are looking at leadership, they are looking at international exposure, they are looking at giving back to the society, they are looking at diversity. You tick all the boxes in a subtle fashion. You need to tick all the boxes in a subtle fashion. Make sure that you distribute your achievements, your essays in such a way that they're covering all these different aspects. In fact, if you remember when we had worked on that, if you remember back when we worked on that essay around achievement, and then there was another essay which was on similar lines, basically, which was talking about leadership potential and all. So in that we had a lot of brainstorming that, okay, we had this 4 or 5 star achievements which we want to highlight. So which one should we put in here? Which one should we put in there? And in fact, I think the 11th hour we also decided to fill an optional essay, like almost
Yes,
almost
yes,
towards the end. That's
yeah,
how flexible you need to be. You need to understand, okay, every element is fitting well in the story, and then if
yeah.
you feel that, okay, this is something which I need to explain more, then you need to use the optional essay in a very smart fashion. So that those
Yeah.
smart things you always need to do. So
Yeah,
yeah,
adding on to just about the essays, we star achievements also focus on how you are connect. Like, you don't need to, if you've done 100 things in life, we can't mention all the 100 things in the essays, right? So when you're taking out star achievements, even then, right, you don't have to talk about use the staff framework when you're talking about those achievements, like situation, task, action, results. So they are more interested in looking at what led there, what was your thought process, and what were the
exactly,
results. Like, instead of saying, hey, I did 5 things, if you talk about 2 things and how you achieved it and what was the impact, that would be more suitable, I mean,
impactful.
more impactful for
Yeah.
the when the adcom reads through it. So yeah, be very careful how to place your bets on what stories are you going to highlight.
Exactly, exactly. And each essay has a word limit. You all of you know that. And the good thing is that like INSEAD keeps a word limit of about, I think most of the essays were around 200 words, 300
Yeah,
words. There were a few with 500 words, like two
but
of
it
them with
seems so
400 words.
less.
Four
as
less,
in when,
exactly.
when you have to speak about your situation, action, and everything, right? So,
Yeah.
and
We remember like around 800, like for a 400 essay, we used to start with 800 words, then we used to
exactly,
cut down the content, sitting together.
yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. So great. So any closing tips that you want to give to the students? I still don't see a question, so I'm hoping that people found a lot of interesting tips, which we just did discuss. So any other tips that you want to add, Barkavi, from your side for the viewers?
I think we've spoken a lot about the essays and the entire process. I think I would reiterate and stress upon getting your persona right and sticking with it, and also spending time in from now, even if you're preparing for GMAT, look at the questions that's been highlighted in the schools. Usually, these schools tend to the through the process of the application, they tend to solidify your plans for the future, right? So, like, what I want to do 5 years from now, I would not have known when I was actually sitting in, like, I had an idea, but a very clear step by step process to go there, I wouldn't have known. So, it takes a long time. It's not going to come in like the last few hours before time. So think about it, think about what you want to do in the future, think about what can you highlight, and even before you get into the process. So do a lot of research work and self reflection work first, and then second, when you're building your storyline and building a persona for yourself, be strong about it and stick to it. Like, you want to show so many different sides, but there's only one thing that's essential. Like, your story needs to add up. So think make a persona, stick to it. Don't get over ambitious with how many things you want to play. And like, again, something I'd mentioned, that speak about, like, we're all like, use the star approach. Impact is more important than impact in one incident is
Action
more
plan,
important
basically.
than, yeah, exactly, than having like 5 different quality more than quantity is more important, essentially. So self reflection, stick to personas, and quality versus quantity is very important. And do enough and more research on each of your universities and tailor it to them. Because, I mean, initially when I started the process, I thought I will do for one school, and I can just like use the same essays, repurpose it for other schools. It doesn't work like that at
Doesn't
all.
work.
You need to give each of those schools enough time. You need to speak to their specific alumni and understand. And also something that you needed to speak to, something that I wanted to highlight was yeah, use don't give up on the scholarship essays. Also, give it
Yes, yes,
enough, do justice to it. So yeah.
you very well summarized like for the entire discussion. Anyone who has just come in, also you probably get all the important points in Barkavi's last 2 3 minutes. Just one
Yeah.
thing I'll add from my side is believe in yourself. Like an honest confession to make. Like in 2018, I was planning to do my second MBA. That's when we decided not to go for it and start GMAT was instead and try out entrepreneurship as a full time thing. So at that point of time, I was considering INSEAD. It was my dream B school. I wanted to go there, and a few other schools I looked at in Europe. And I was always like tensed or worried or unsure, inconfident that okay, will I ever make it? Will INSEAD consider me or not? But trust me, like if you believe in yourself, again, I have not been able to get myself into INSEAD still, but I have at least helped a decent number of students, and I feel good when we are talking today, Barkavi. I feel really good. You have come so very close to achieving your goal just joining INSEAD in a few weeks from now. So believe in yourself. That's very important. And Barkavi also, I know her very closely. I work with her very closely. So I know when we started working on it, she was also not confident whether we will get in INSEAD. And anyone student, any student is not confident till the time it actually happens to them. But it is
Yeah.
very important to believe in your goals. Don't aim low. Okay, you need to have realistic expectations. Again, I am not asking you to have unrealistic expectations, but don't aim low. If required, get help. If required, get expert advice. If required, take third opinion also, because sometimes you are so engrossed in your own work, you're not able to look at it from a different perspective. And depending on individual to individual, everyone has a different philosophy. Like I personally believe in downplaying my own strengths. Barkavi also, like she used to feel that okay, this is so insignificant, right? Like how can this end up becoming insignificant, like significant? So there are people who don't don't think of themselves, don't try to boast about themselves. Like they always feel that okay, this might not be significant, but someone else who looks at your case can actually give you a more clearer perspective as well. So don't give up. It's very very important. So we have our first question related to actually applications. I'll
Yeah.
just take it up
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
for you, Barkavi. You can take it up. Yeah, discuss
I
this.
think
Yeah.
this was the exact question that I had actually asked Piyush. Round one or round two, am I going to lose it? I actually applied in the January round, which I think is the round two for INSEAD, and
It's round
I
three.
did
Yeah,
my round
technically it's
three.
round three for NCR, but it equivalent to
Yeah.
round two for most of the schools. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, see, I applied in the January round, and I got through my scholarship also. And so it's just about, if it's about taking time to put up a good essay, like be honest with yourself. Are you worried about putting in the extra effort, or do you think you need actual time to get your essays perfectly done? So it's only you know best. So give yourself time, and then apply in the round you feel most confident to. And I actually wanted to highlight, this earlier is, give yourself enough time to write essays, because even with chat gpt around, we're still not poets and authors. It really needs, you need to think your structure through, you need to go through multiple drafts. I think each of my essay, 22 essays is a big number. Each of these essays probably went through 3 or 4 drafts before we got it into a shape that we wanted for the outcomes to see. And Piyush told me that your essays are good to begin with. So it was isn't
Yes.
I don't know if it was just to motivate me, or were they
No, no,
actually good,
never
but
good.
I'm just saying that
Never.
give yourself time, because we are not poets. So it will,
And
you
it
need
always takes
effort.
more time on the first application. So if we recall, like first we applied to NUS and then we applied to NCR. And when
Yeah.
we were working together on NUS, there were a lot of essays. In fact, I there was a point when I showed a few essays to Barkavi. I was trying to explain to her like how to write it, but then I showed a few essays which were written in a very different fashion. So generally, when we write essays, it's like in form of letters. We are going to the point. We're talking about the directly to the point. But how a narrative is built around it, how do you show your user persona through the writing style, is something which you need to understand and learn. So I shared a few drafts of some of our previous students I have who had made it to INSEAD, LBS, and a few other schools, and that's when things gotten into flow. And like INSEAD first drafts also of Barkavi were great, and even then we required time. So it's very important to have a plan. And in fact, I do remember that we had a Excel sheet that we maintained. That okay, this is the deadline for NCR. This is essay one. This is essay two. This is essay three. We are gonna finish all these essays, draft one, draft two, draft three by this dates. And that timeline always helped, because you knew that you are going by the timeline and you're not gonna run short of time at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So planning is equally important.
Exactly. And we also remember we spoke about essays, and we didn't actually touch about resume. Spend some time on resume also,
Yes.
because here this resume is, you're not applying to a job, you're applying to a school, right? So speak, you need to like structure it in a different manner. Maybe like look up the sample CVs that's for schools specific, and highlight your achievements, highlight your impact. So spend time on resume also. Yeah,
Yes, because B school and a normal resume, in a job resume, you're talking about your
it's very
skills
different.
basically.
Yeah,
Here you're talking about your impact also. Here you're talking about
exactly.
more about the impact basically rather than anything else. So that's something which you need to also keep in mind. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Barkavi, for taking your time again today. It was really, really nice. It was always great to talk to you and get off to a great start with INSEAD. It's just the start of your career, and who knows, we see you in newspaper someday. Like, yeah, for all the good reasons. Yeah.
Same high. Yeah,
Okay.
so much
Okay.
to look
Thank you.
front. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be here, and I've been on the other side of the screen, hoping and waiting. Okay, will my GMAT come through? Where will I apply? So it's fulfilling to be on the other end, sharing my thoughts with the audience. And yeah, all the very best to everyone preparing. It's only about time that you also reach your end goal, and yeah,
No, that's important. Thank you so much. Thank you. Barkavi.
yeah.